So basically, Miele, what we're trying to do, it's all good, but our grandpa lived a really good life, and we just started talking. We were thinking like maybe we can get something to come out of this, and thought it'd be a really good idea considering our stories and experience for players to have sort of an outlet. I don't know if you have any experience as far as climbing up the ranks, and if there was, maybe a mental health coach or life coach or anything like that, but just everybody goes through something different that's really tailored towards, their own story, and they might need specific, sort of help along those lines, if that makes sense. What we're really doing is just asking to sort of, share the story where you played, kind of growing up, climbing up the ranks, and then we can go from there if you're all right with that.
Were you drafted in the USHL then?
No, it's funny. I was actually just talking about that because my financial advisor, his son is going through the draft right now, and he actually just got drafted by Lincoln. I remember that year with Little Caesars, I had a pretty good year. I think I led the league in points, and the draft came around. I was like, okay, there's like 21 rounds. I feel like I should be drafted at some point. And I talked to a couple teams before, and they had interest, and so I was just excited for the draft. And 23 rounds later, I didn't get drafted, and there was teams that were actually choosing not to pick any players and still passing over me, and I was very confused by that and very frustrated. But I think that also, is a part of my story, because that always, lit a little fire under me to always have to prove myself.
What was the I guess maybe the mark against you, or what do you think that was?
I really don't know. Maybe looking back, I could have been somewhat of a little punk or something. I really don't know. To this day, I convinced myself that the coaching staff maybe wanted me back for another year, because they were pushing for me to come back another year. So maybe they said things that like I wasn't ready to move on to juniors or something like that. Because I remember one thing that Mike Rathai said to me when I was leaving to go to Cedar Rapids, where I ended up making the team. His last words to me were, "We'll see you at Christmas when you're back playing for us." And so that was just something that always stuck in the back of my head. But again, that was just more fuel to light the fire and drive me through my career.
USHL, from Cedar Rapids into Chicago, and then when was that, that bridge happening for you with talks of Miami?
So it happened early on, and it was kind of a weird situation, because I left my third year juniors. I left to go play and finish my that season in Miami and play with them in the second half of the year. But I was struggling to get in academically. I couldn't get my ACT score up high enough, and yeah, it's not easy. But so after I had to commit early on, so I committed to Miami my first year, and then like partway through my second year, they're like, you're not going to be able to come because you didn't get your score up high enough in time. So I ended up going back to junior for another year, and I had a really good year in Chicago, and they had some injuries up at Miami, so they're like, we're thinking about bringing you in, and it turns out they did, and I played about, I think it was the last 18 games of the season with Miami. So, but I got traded to Chicago in my like a quarter into the season of my second year of juniors. We really needed a goalie in Cedar Rapids, and Chicago Cedar Rapids traded for the goalie in Chicago, Backman, and I was part of that deal because they really wanted me. And fortunately, I went from the best team in the league to the worst team in the league, and I learned a ton that year. So it was a huge learning year for me, for sure.
So what do you think that you learned through that process?
Well, it was, I was on, like I said, the best team in the league, and it was so structured and organized, and basically the coach ran everything when it came to how you acted on the ice, off the ice, school, everything. And when you're there, it's kind of a pain in the butt. But then when I get traded to this other team, and it's just an absolute free for all. Like, I think the first game we were there, we lost like 8-0, and then we got bag skated the next day. And but just like the structure of everything you do prepares you for what you can do on the ice as an individual and as a team. So just learning how important it is to buy into the process and the system, and how long in your career that can carry you.
So you won the Hobey Baker, which is huge. And Rick, I don't know if you knew that, but can you tell us a little bit about your experience during that season? And it looks like you got really, really hot. Like really hot. Yeah. 71 points.
Everything fell into place and worked out for the best. And my first couple years, like my first year, I had an okay year, that half a year. My second year, I struggled a lot. I was having a lot of family issues actually during that year, and the coach was hard on me because I wasn't performing well, and he had his own issues, and I was kind of the whooping boy for that year. So that was a tough year for me. And then my junior year, I came out and had a little bit better of a year, and then my senior year, like literally everything just came together. And I had a great coaching staff there that was willing to put the work in with me every day after practice. I did a lot of extra that year, and were out there with me a ton, just doing a bunch of little things. And I progressively got better and better and better, and it just really took over. And again, obviously my team and my line mates that year, like everything just clicked perfectly. And the success we had was unbelievable. Even as a team, we had a really good year. I don't think it was our best year. We had a couple of ups and downs that year, but I think we went on like a 17-game winning streak, which in college, that's a long time, but only playing 2 games a week. And unfortunately, we won the CCHA championship, was the highlights of my career. And then we got knocked out first round, which was a bummer in the playoffs. But just overall, that year was memorable in more situations than just me winning the Hobey.
I couldn't, I was just thinking about all the interviews with, NFL players and NBA players, and just reverting back to the Wii and just having a really good season as a team. I think that's awesome. What kind of like propelled you to asking for, did you ask for additional help on the side?
Sure, there was times where I was like, I want to do it today, and they were there to push me. But a lot of it was just, something that I wanted to do, and it just became a habit. It's hard mentally at the start to continue to do it, but once it becomes a habit, it's easy to do, and you see the benefits, and it becomes even easier.
Then you make the jump, to the American League. Did you sign with Phoenix then at the end of that season, or how did that go for you? Were you drafted?
I did sign. I was a free agent. I've never been drafted. Another little fuel to the fire, but there was a couple teams that were interested, and I felt at the time Kyle Turris wasn't. He had his lockout where he wanted more money, and so I was like, oh, this is a great opportunity to jump in a spot where.
I forgot. He was so I was playing in the VC, and he was playing for Burnaby. I was playing for Surrey. Yeah, so that would have been right around the same time frame. Yeah.
Yeah. So so I was like, this is great. I'll hop in right away. I'll make the team. I'll be a go-to guy. And little did I know that I was not ready for the NHL. So one of my, I don't want to say bigger regrets, was I'm super proud and happy in my career, but I would have signed with a team that was more willing to develop me in the AHL and wait till I was more than ready to get called up. Where there, it wasn't really like that. It was, whoever can fill in a spot right now is going to come up. If you can't do it, then he's going right back down. So, but yeah, I signed as a free agent. I went out there at the end of my senior year once we got knocked out, and just practiced with the team and burned the year, which I wasn't too sure about at the start, but ended up being great because then you become a free agent quicker that way. But yeah, then I spent 3 years with that organization, and then kind of bounced around a little bit from there, and I'm back with them.
For sure. I think
you tore it up, in the American League.
Yeah, I had a lot of good years there. And it's kind of funny because once you get labeled as an American leaguer, you're kind of labeled, and it's kind of tough to break away from that. But when I went up with the Coyotes, the couple times I went up in my first 3 years, it was hard to find a groove. I was never really there long enough to like really get comfortable and confident in my play. So I just never did that great when I was up, nor was, I think I wasn't ready when they called me up. So then after that, it was kind of just like, yeah, well, maybe he's just a good American League player. He's not really an NHL caliber player. But, it still just kind of, the one nice thing about the AHL, as long as you got the right attitude, is you're always trying to get better because you have the NHL hanging over you. And you always think that there's a chance. And if you got the right mindset, you can continue to improve and continue to have good years in the minor leagues.
What was the biggest jumps, that you experienced as far as trying to, I know there wasn't a lot of time with trying to get comfortable, but like what were some of the things that you saw? Was it more of like a chemistry thing, being a new guy, or, what was the jump?
A little bit of the chemistry. There were some guys that I was more comfortable with on the ice, but obviously I didn't always get to, obviously I didn't get to choose my line at all, but it was a comfort thing. I was always worried about, upsetting one of the older guys, or if I'm not getting them the puck, or if I make a mistake, if I was going to see another shift again the rest of the game, if I was going to get sent back down after that. And that was probably the toughest part for me, was just mentally being in the moment and enjoying the moment and recovering from a mistake and getting back out there and doing better instead of just dwelling on the negatives. But the game was just so much different. Obviously, every single person is better, faster, smarter, more skilled. So it was just a little hard for me to keep up with that, because in the AHL, I could kind of do whatever I want. I could slow the game down to my pace. Where in the NHL, you can't do that. You got to move the puck and get to those open areas and trust that those guys are going to do the right play and get the puck back, because that's not always the situation in the AHL, where you can't really always trust every guy with the puck. So you can become a little, I don't want to say selfish, but, hold on to the puck a little bit more when you should actually move it. So that jump of, using your teammates a little bit more was a little bit harder for me, and just kind of living in the moment and enjoying it when I was there.
What was that feeling like, though? Like the first call up, your first game in the NHL?
That was unbelievable. And it was against Anaheim, and who at the time was a powerhouse, and they had like Getzlaff and Perry. So line matching was huge for Tippett. So I think I only played like 5 minutes that night. But I remember sitting on the bench just during the national anthem being like, wow, it's finally here. Like, this is unbelievable. And you step out there for that first shift and you're nervous and you're excited and you're everything. And then the game goes by, and you just can't believe how quick it went. But it was a surreal moment, as I'm sure anyone can imagine. I would love to have that chance again to really take it in and enjoy every second.
Yeah. And if you were given another shot, how would you approach that differently?
Well, it's funny. I kind of approached it differently this year in my preseason game, and I probably had my best. It's not necessarily always NHL caliber in the preseason, because you have a lot of AHL guys mixed in, but I just enjoyed it. I played a very simple game. I didn't try to stand out in a way where it caused me to make mistakes or get down on myself. So I played a very simple game, and it's funny how much better I played, and just how much happier I was. If I made a mistake, it was like, all right, who cares? Enjoy this moment, get back out there. You're going to get another chance. And I think I ended the game with an assist, a couple shots, and a couple hits. So I was pretty proud of myself. Even after, halfway through the game, they started throwing me out there on the penalty kill and stuff like that. So that was exciting, but I ended up getting sent down like 3 days later. So just part of the game.
Yeah.
My biggest focus right now is to try to develop a culture in Tucson, because I know, 98% that's where I'm going to be, and that's where I'm going to spend most of the year. The way the league is now, the older guys are there to be a good role model and, you know, set the standards for the young guys. And, it was fun during the year. It's really hard because the game has changed in the sense of the way players are now. They're a little bit different. I think they expect a little bit more before proving that they deserve it. But it's fun to try to build a culture there in Tucson and work with the coaches and the other older guys and see as the year goes on how guys change and how the team has changed to build a winning culture there. And ultimately, if I'm doing a good job of doing that, I'm maybe going to get a chance up top to play. Because
what's one of your funniest like hazing moments as like a rookie?
Ooh, that I've done to a rookie or when I was a rookie?
I think we can do both.
Let's see.
Because the game has changed a lot since when Rick compared to
I can imagine.
Yeah.
I guess this wasn't really like hazing, but it was my 4th year pro, and there was a rookie coming in out of college that like didn't have any money, and I think it was just like Halloween at the time, but we were kind of making the rookies do something because we always make them do something at every party. And he was like willing to do anything for money. So we're like, all right, go in the bathroom and lick the floor. So he was like, all right, deal. So we go in there, we're all around him. We're all like throwing money at him to lick the floor. And and the owner of the bar comes in and he thinks we're doing drugs on the floor in the bathroom. And he's like, you guys are done. Get out of here. Everyone get out of here. And we're like trying to explain to him. We're like, man, he's just going to lick the floor. That's all that's going to happen. We promise. Yeah. And he just like refused to believe that someone would lick the floor over doing drugs in the bathroom. So that was one of the funnier moments. I guess for me, when I was a rookie, like we would have a lot of team dinners and we always had to do a skit. And I always enjoyed doing the skits because it was kind of free reign to chirp the older guys a little bit.
Oh yeah.
I can't remember any like good ones exactly. I'm sure they didn't like it, but they always got good laughs out of it. So that was always fun to do. Our rookie party was a lot. Like they did such a good job, and you don't realize as a young guy how much goes into that stuff until you're an older guy and you're in charge of setting up. And they had like 8 different bars around the town set up for different tasks for each guy, and we had to get dressed up. And it was like stupid. But like as a rookie back then, you didn't really say, no, I'm not doing it. You just kind of did it. And
yeah,
unfortunately they respected you more if you did it opposed to not doing it. But it was a lot of fun looking back. I mean, obviously you don't really do that stuff anymore. Like we did as good as a job as we could this year with the rookies of having them do a bunch of tasks, and looking back on some of it, it's funny, like no chance after this coronavirus thing that they could do 95% of them. So it'll be interesting to see how things change a little bit with that.
For sure. I know for me, one thing that I did like about it is, you know, of course there's some situations that aren't, that probably wouldn't be acceptable today. But the one thing that I think about it, for sure, I know we're all kind of cracking up here, but I think when I was in Surrey in the BC, we had 13 rookies. So it was free reign. It was free reign for all the vets. But it was, I think one of the coolest things about that is like when you have so many rookies, you kind of grow up with each other within the league. Mm-hmm. And we really just gelled as a team. So it was definitely a lot of fun. But I don't know, how about you, Rick? So Rick played for Windsor. He was drafted by San Jose, played for Team USA, did pretty well. But kind of, I don't know if you've seen my posts or if you've ever, you know, kind of followed our family a little bit. But I think some of our adversity and kind of like what you had said is like, and the same thing with Jeff Zaire when he went to Boston is like, you don't really live with regrets, but if there was one thing you could maybe possibly change, because we are proud of, you know, who we are, you know, to this day and everything. But, you know, for us, like for me, I've got, you know, 10 plus years of sobriety. I actually started smoking weed when we were on Caesars. I remember Rat was like, Smitty, get out there and go fight this guy. And like, I was just like, whatever, like, I don't want to be a part of it, right? And then Rat comes up to me after a game, he's like, are you fucking smoking weed? And I'm like, well, yeah, but I don't want to say it, you know? So yeah, part of our adversity and our story and kind of like, I don't know if you knew, but like at one point, Jim Nill called me from the wings and he was like, let us know what semi-pro team you end up playing for. And, you know, we can create a relationship and get you out to camp. And at least, you know, I'd have a ticket to the dance and work hard. But at that point, I was getting worse and worse and worse and worse. And I knew that if I was to have any shot, period, at doing anything with this, that I need to be sober. And I could never get sober. So I just never called him back, you know.
Wow.
So that's pretty crazy. And Rick,
Yeah.
Rick, how many years of sobriety do you have now?
17. So I mean, you know, it's Chris talking about, I mean, I messed up my career because of my off-ice activities, you know, and I think, like, I always heard guys too that were older, if I could go back and talk to my younger self, right? And you know, to have that opportunity like you have right now with some of those young guys, I mean, I would love that opportunity just to say, listen, you know, like, you've got an opportunity here and you can either burn it or, you know, you can do the things necessary that are going to keep you clean. Yeah, let's have fun, but you know, the main thing's the main thing. So, you know, the stuff that I do today, like, I still train 5 days a week and I train harder than I ever did when I was playing, you know. If I would have focused that back when I was younger, but the you know, where my mind was at that time was like what Chris was talking about, you know, we're going to the next bar, next city we're going into, and that was the main focus, right? So,
and I'm sure you've seen a ton of that too, especially in the A and coming up, and, you know, I could only imagine, but it kind of goes hand in hand with hockey, you know. We're kind of enabled, you know, as long as you're putting points up and the team's doing all right, like, for the most part, you know, coach is all right with that. So, but yeah, I didn't mean to cut you off, Rick.
No, I'm used to it. It's all good.
I've had 2 cups of coffee. Get off my ass.
Coffee, man. So yeah, I mean, I'll be 42 in July, and I'm trying to, like, there's a 10-year gap there, and I know, like, the hazing and everything has completely changed, you know, and what you're allowed to do, and maybe there's some things that go unnoticed for, you know, a good reason. But so I'm playing on. So to back up, I was in the USHL. It was first because I couldn't pass my ACTs is why I left the USHL, right? I went through Sylvan Learning Center. I did Kuman math. I mean, I was doing it all the special classes, trying to pass the ACTs. And it just didn't happen. And so I was knocking down good grades. I was in Omaha that year with the Lancers, and I was pulling all B's that year, but was still having issues testing out. That's always been my downfall. And then, so Dad said, all right, you know, we'll pull you. I was drafted in 95 to Windsor, showed up in 96, told them I wasn't going to college. And so anyways, went there, the hazing started, and we were on a road trip. All the rookies were called to the back of the bus, and then it was skits. But if you didn't do a skit, then you had to pull down your pants, and the guy on our team that had the biggest hands I have ever seen, like dad hands times 10, got spanked like 10 or 20 times. I can't remember until there was welts on your butt. And so, like, that was part of the hazing back then.
Yeah.
Like,
I remember those stories.
It's crazy.
It's crazy. And it's so funny to think about, because, like, in a moment you're like, oh, this is normal, you know? And then,
right?
And then you look back on it and you're like, it's just so weird.
Yeah,
you know, like,
going to jail these days for that.
Yeah, I know.
Miele, do you, like, is there like, as you think about everything, and even so, as you continue, is there anything that you wish that you had along the way, that could have been beneficial to you, you know, just leveling yourself up, or as a person, as a player? You know, I know for me, as an example, I guess if I'm asking this question correctly, you know, if I wish that I really knew the level of intensity of how I needed to take everything serious from basically when we started at Little Caesars and up. You know, it wasn't you were going to another town to party and to live with billets and be enabled and have a great time. And, you know, of course we love the game of hockey, but if we were to take it seriously, I wish I had somebody that kind of fit, you know, the bill of kind of a mentor around, you know, being sober and stuff like that, or like to have somebody to be completely transparent with that wasn't my family, to help me better understand what I'm going through. Because at that age, you know, I had no idea what I was facing. I was uneducated about, you know, alcoholism, you know, all the above. And so for me, I wish that I had some, like, a mentor that kind of I could relate to keep me sort of square in check and to be able to understand that these moments are some of the most important moments of my life if I want to do anything with it. So I don't know if that kind of helps, but yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And I think a role model is great. And obviously each person, depending on their personality, it's a different type of role model, you know? I know for me, growing up, and I'm sure for you, if some guy was like, if you ever drink alcohol, you're never going to make it, you'd be like, yeah, okay. Like, I know that's not the case, but almost like same for you. Like, I wish someone would have shown the dedication it truly takes, not just producing points. Like I was kind of saying earlier, it's the everyday habits of on the ice, off the ice, at home, your eating habits, your school habits. Like if I go back to school, I'm sure you guys the same way, you would have done it totally different, would have tried way harder, educated yourself more, educate yourself on nutrition, finances, like everything, just those day-to-day habits and how to create those good habits where it just becomes normal.
Right, like breathing naturally. Yeah,
exactly. And I think that, and like, I don't know if you guys are watching this Last Dance with Michael Jordan, the documentary.
I didn't get a chance to, unfortunately. I need to catch up on that, but everybody's been raving about it.
Yeah, man, it's awesome. And just like knowing that Michael Jordan is great, watching this, you're like, okay, now I really know why Michael Jordan was great. You know, like every day, the intensity that he brings just in life, like he was competitive, like over rock, paper, scissors, you know, and not everyone has that in them, but just seeing those daily habits and what it can create for you in your future, like, you know, not going out 3 nights a week, if you get to be the best player in the world, it's probably worth it, right? You know, like, I just think that somehow finding ways to create those habits at a younger age is where it becomes natural is so key. And I actually had some kid reach out to me from this area that's going to play AAA next year. He's 16 years old. He's like, what can I do to, you know, get noticed and all that stuff? I'm like, man, it's kind of a hard question. Like, I really don't know what you can do to get noticed, but if I were to say to you, you said he's going to be bottom 6. I'm like, okay, go spend this quarantine this summer, getting as strong as you can and building habits where you're going to bring it every single day. Because if you go there and you're stronger than every kid, might not be as skilled, but you're stronger than every kid and you work hard every day, scouts are going to know that you're going to improve and continue to get better. So just find a way to create those habits. And so I guess for me, that's probably the biggest thing at a younger age to know.
Yeah, I think it's a great point to make that stuff like breathing and to really instill those habits at a young age and have somebody to be able to sort of walk you through. Because when I understand something, I'm more likely to be bought in. So if I could have somebody explain to me a little bit what this is going to look like, you know, you have my buy-in. So
for sure. And you need to be able to relate to that person too, right? It can't be 100%. Joe Schmo.
Yeah, 100%.
Which is great because we've had guys, sports psychologists, come to our team, and they've never played a second of of sports at all, and they're by the book. And it's like, we can kind of see through this a little bit because you're just by the book, you haven't really lived it. And then I've had guys come in that, you know, have lived it and have done it and have overcome it. And it's like, man, I can really relate to this guy. Like, I want to go to this guy and talk to him. I'm not scared of him. But like our generation, like psychologists were like, ugh, stay away. Like, you're a crazy person if you go to them, until you actually go. And then you're like, wow, that helped a lot.
Right.
So if you can find someone who you can relate to on top of that, you're like, wow, this is perfect. Yeah, absolutely.
I think what you were saying too about, Ohio State in the program and back in the day, not that there's any knock. I think that there's different, personalities for everything, and everybody goes through a certain part of their life, and that's okay. And that's called being human. I think it's a matter of what you do. And if somebody's willing to put in the action to grow and trying to do the next right thing and taking the next steps, I can get behind a person like that, regardless if it's not the perfect thing. But when it comes down to it, you were talking about like somebody to be able to relate to. I know for me, literally, when somebody wanted to talk to me about getting sober and everything, I had a counselor that was just a sister of an alcoholic originally. And I'm like, hey, it looks like you read a book and you're certified and you got all these accolades, but you don't know what the fuck it feels like.
Right.
You have no idea. So, I'm sorry, but I was such an idiot. I'm like, I need to trade me to the other counselor. They're like, there's no. But, something that you can definitely relate with. And again, that's another thing that we're trying to, tailor from. I think that within any sport, alcoholism or addiction can be pretty common, because you have to have that sort of obsessive personality to want to work and work hard, and it is every day, and you need to show up and bring that intensity. So I don't think my guess is too far-fetched or off by saying that I think that there's a commonality, when it comes to that, but a little bit. Oh yeah, the open door policy thing. Back, like, you can agree, and especially with Rick being a 78 birthday on Windsor or whatever, and there's not, like what you were saying, when you were going through stuff with your family and you thought that he was going through stuff, I think it is a strength to be transparent into a line and feed off each other, get each other's buy-in, have that trust. And now, like, you want to go to war for each other, so I think it's a strength to be transparent compared to, just shake it off. And Jeff's there. He was like, coach was like, yeah, just go rub one out and get back out here. And it's just, it'd be nice to chat about what's going on between the years, because if you can't be the best of yourself mentally, I don't know how you can perform at the top of your game,
That's great that you say that, because for me, when I was going through all of it and I just held it all in, like, I was so angry. And I would show it at the worst times. And then, like, finally they brought in a guy to talk to everyone.
I remember.
Yeah. So they brought someone in to talk for guys to talk to, and I talked to him. And as soon as I, like, sat down and started talking, I just started bursting into tears and crying. And I was like, wow, that was just so much lifted off my shoulders. And then from there, like, I was able to talk about it more with friends and other family members, and it just made such a difference. And it's pretty amazing how many people have similar issues, like, everyone has their own issues, like you said. And just like you said, being transparent about it is so uplifting and so good for everyone. And being the coach at the time, if we would have both been open about it, it would have been completely different.
Sure.
Coach today too, like, there's that point, where, like, you just brought up something for me, because I remember I am, like, I leave the OHL and I blew up my knee after making the U.S. World Junior team, and then I just went into a funk where, drinking, drugs, the whole nine, right? And so, I got my dad home and everything, but regardless of all that, now I find myself, like, I'm in the coast, and I'm thinking, what am I doing here, And so I go through my first season sober, my second season, I'm like, all right, this is dumb. And then I fell off the wagon, and then I found myself in New Orleans, which we were on a double affiliation, and, there's a lot of opportunity there. But I ended up one night, just had a terrible game, so I went and got a 6-pack, went home and drowned out my sorrows, in my bedroom. And, just think about, like, I know another guy, if he played bad, like, he'd smoke more weed than he normally would. And so anyway, it's like, if I'm a coach today, probably from everything I've gone through, almost killing myself literally from drugs and alcohol, like, I think the message is 100% leave it at the rink. It's, if you have a bad game, let's talk about it, and then we can focus on some things we need to work on, but let's not dwell on it to the point where now all of a sudden I'm not just in a player funk, like, on my ability, but now I'm in a mental funk and I can't come out of it. And the mental health side of it,
Yeah, absolutely. It is so important.
Especially when you get to a higher level, you're worried about, like what you had talked about, getting sent down, making mistake, dwelling on that, and holding on to it night after night. Man, I can only imagine, especially, when you got the call and you're in the show and you're playing a couple games, and, that would be a lot of pressure.
Mm-hmm. It was funny. One game I was just sitting on the bench, like, every time I make a mistake, it's like, okay, is that my last shift? It turns out at, like, a couple minutes left in the second period, it was my last shift. I didn't play the rest of the second, and then the whole third, and then I didn't play the 5 minutes in overtime. And then they put me out there for a shootout, and I'm like, geez, like, this can go two ways. I can score, and it's going to be amazing, or I could miss, and it just solidifies everything. Of course, I missed, but it's just like, you never know where your mind is, and when it gets lost, it really gets lost.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So what do you do now for yourself when you find yourself in that type of mental trap? Like, is there certain things that you build off of, or that, you know, maybe some past experiences that can help you through that?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, it's just about finding the positive. You know, when there's always a negative, there's always a positive somewhere, and to focus on that positive opposed to the negative is the best thing for me. You know, when I come back from a shift, and if it's a bad shift, it's like, instead of just sitting there thinking about the bad shift, it's like, okay, well, I know I'm going to get another shift, so this is what I have to do instead. I try to make a move at the blue line. Next time, don't make a move at the blue line, just chip it out and focus on the positive and what the right way is to go about that situation next time you're in it. And you kind of just, the negativity just drifts away from me.
It's good.
So I'd say probably, like, to recap, your message would probably be something along the lines of, and forgive me if I miss anything, but really having a better understanding at a younger age of developing those habits, you know, and it gets easier the more that you do them. At the same time, it would be nice to be able to have an outlet or somebody to chat with a little bit while you're going through some tough times, which I think is what we're really trying to be able to develop and to be able to assist with. And then, gosh, what was the other thing? Just really not dwelling on your stuff, just keeping it simple. Like, you're human. Oh, the biggest thing is, like, you can control your work ethic. You can't control the outcome. So, you know, 100%. Have that intensity and work, and then that's all you can control, and you let it go, you know, and if you're happy with yourself, then there you go, you know, if not, you know what to do. So
yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
Let's do the popcorn, like fun questions to finish with.
Cool.
I'll go first. How about, so I think this is like a universal one for every guy, but what's your go-to for your pregame?
Oh, it's changed over the years. I always try to find that perfect recipe, but this year I went a lot with, I go pasta still, but I go, the durum wheat is the only ingredient, so it's pretty clean. And then do like pesto turkey or pesto chicken meatballs. And then I do broccoli or Brussels sprouts. Nice.
Do you take, I don't know if you knew back in the day, but I was kind of soft. I was telling Rick that I used to do Starbucks with peppermint mocha with whipped cream. That used to be my thing.
My road roommate this year does that all the time.
Yeah, real soft and pampered. Do you take any supplements or like a pregame? Gosh, we were always trying to figure that out. I feel like you never really did.
I didn't even start drinking coffee until my like 6th or 7th year pro, which is like, I don't know how I ever lasted without coffee, but I drink a lot of coffee now. Supplements are a big part of the game now, but obviously they have to be NSF certified. But just realistically, your basic ones like the fish oil, vitamin D, probiotics, magnesium, multivitamins. Those are like always stocked in our locker room. And then, you know, your protein shakes with a lot of carbs, protein shakes with not a lot of carbs. And then they'll have like more of an all natural powders that you can throw into your water for energy drinks.
I love that approach so much more than like a Bang energy drink.
Oh man, so much better.
Better for you.
You're just well rounded. You're speaking Rick's language right now. Also,
yeah.
I'm certified as a sports nutritionist, but also in exercise nutrition. So that's my jam.
So right up your alley, yeah. So not NL Explode or whatever it was called.
We don't talk about that. It's like a
stomach ache.
Oh man.
God, I just remember the Hudick twins. They were just all about like these yellow jackets from the gas station. They would literally and they'd just be going nuts. Do you remember them? I know Rick.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Dude, yeah. What are they doing nowadays?
I don't know.
I would still say to this day they're one of the most interesting.
I'm cutting this part out.
They'll show up. They'll show up at our doors if they find out that we're talking.
I believe it.
I know.
Man, one would get hit and the other one would come in and just clobber the guy.
Remember when they showed up with matching leather jackets and they were like the T-Birds from Greece?
They can name their sticks too.
So I got one for you. So
Yeah.
is there any like I hate to even use the word, but do you have like some superstitions? Do you have to tie a right skate before the left? Do you have to take your stick a certain way? Like, what does that look like?
So I always tie my left skate first. I've had the same knob on my sticks since my dad was making my sticks when I was a kid. But honestly, I've cut out a lot of superstitions because I've just I've grown my faith a lot, and I've found that the more faith I have, the less superstitions I need. But besides that, like, I just feel like I put on my left skate first because I'm just comfortable doing it. It's not because I'm like, oh my God, I'm not going to play good. It's just comfortable and normal. Like, I put my left shoe on every day first because it's just, again, I have it and it's normal. But I'd say my knob is probably the longest lasting one because it's literally the same way that my dad did it when I was a mini-mite.
I don't think that question can be answered any better.
Yeah,
Why am I faith here? You know?
I got a question on that. Then, if we're talking faith, was that always a part, or was that something that kind of evolved and grew?
It's definitely something that evolved and grew much more over the past couple of years. So my now wife that we started dating in college, her family has always had their faith, and they never pushed it on me, which is what I loved. And because I've been around people who have pushed it, and it just kind of scared me away from it even more. But they kind of just, let me find it on my own, especially my wife. She was great about it. When we go to her house and it was like Easter or Christmas or, just a random Sunday I would be there, we would go to church, and I still didn't like jump on board totally. They would go to like a Roman Catholic kind of church, and it was just hard for me to understand because I didn't really know anything about religion. And started doing a little more research and watch some documentaries and read some books. And then we moved down south here in Charleston, and then we found a church that I love going to, and it's just so much easier to understand and connect with. And I just, ever since probably moving down south is when it really started to pick up. And as soon as I found a church that I loved going to, it just became so much easier for me, and something that I try to base a lot of my life around now.
That's awesome. Have you heard of, so there's back here I was actually in the inaugural year when they launched that, but HMI, so Hockey Ministries International. Yep. So we had our hockey ministry guys this year. Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah,
I know, like some of the because they do it at Adrian College out here, and oh man, there's been everybody. I mean, the first year Rafalski came out, but the list goes on. So a bunch of guys every year that always chime in. I think Larkin was out there, and then Abel Cater the one year, and Glendenning, and so it's pretty cool when those kids get that opportunity too, with guys like you that that are still living it and breathing it and in it every day. So, and then obviously on top of that, having the faith side of it too.
Yeah, and it's funny because you don't realize how many players do have their faith, and I think a big reason is because you get some guys who are, I don't know if this is the right thing to say or not, but they're very aggressive about it. And I personally think that sometimes they're over the top about it, so it scares guys away. Yep. And then you kind of just look it off from everyone. And it's like, you can have all the faith in the world and someone might not even know it, and they're just like, that guy's just a really good dude.
Right.
But really it all stems from his faith. And once I found more people like that also helped.
That's awesome, man. You'll be rubbing off on people too. They'll be saying, "What's this guy about?" Like, I like seeing from this guy. So that's cool.
Right.
Doing what you're doing.
Yeah, it's been a long journey, but it's been fun.
It's good.
Yeah, I really appreciate kind of your message, and we're excited to be able to hopefully help out up and comers and really spread the message that an open door policy is a good way to go, and mentorship is a good way to go, and just educating young guys and giving others a chance. So
yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you guys having me, and if you ever need any help from me at all or anything, please feel free to reach out.
Yeah. What if people want to follow you? Are you on Instagram, Facebook?
I am. I mostly do Twitter and Instagram. I think it's just Andy_Miele.
Okay, cool.
Awesome. I'll send out a trailer. Yeah, I'll find it. I'll send out a trailer and tag you in it. You can take a peek. Be fun for the family, fun for other kids, and all that fun stuff. So
yeah, absolutely.
for sure. Thanks for your time.
All right, guys. Thank you. Take